Hi guys, we're going to go over 3.7, one-step inequalities, and also multiple step. Our last video we did talk about inequalities just in general, but now we're actually going to do some of the equations like we were doing in practice from yesterday's class. Vocabulary, of course, inequality is those symbols. The first one here, your age is less than 6 years old. You would represent as A is less than 6. Your height is greater than 40 inches. Would be H greater than 40. They're using H for height and A for age. In some cases, the inequality contains this little underlined thing, and that means greater than or equal to or less than or equal to. So you can see the examples here. Your speed is less than or equal to 45. You'd represent it S is speed, so S is less than or equal to 45. And then we have this with the earnings being greater than or equal to 100. Concept map, so you can see in a word problem, if you see this symbol, it means less than or is fewer than, and then so on and so forth on down. This actually should say is less than or equal to, not or greater to, should say or equal to, is no more than, is at most. You can see the other there. Solve inequalities by adding or subtracting. So just like we did with one-step equations, we can pretend that there's an equal sign here between the 3 and the 10, and we handle it just like we did one-step equations, where you see it's x plus 3. So the inverse of positive 3 is negative 3, so that's why we subtract 3 from both of them. We get x by itself on the left is greater than 7. Same thing down here. Now we do the, or we're going to actually, not same thing down here. We're going to plug that answer in with something greater than 7 to see if it works. So we choose 8, plug 8 in, makes it true that 11 is greater than 10. Again, here's another example. So we subtract 8, we get x is less than 5. Again, we could check this and put a number less than 5, like 4, to make sure that that proves a true statement. We can do it with addition as well, so they may write it backwards. And we just go to the side with the variable, and we do the inverse of negative 5. Remember, this subtraction has to stay with the 5. If you're confused by that, make every subtraction sign plus a negative, and then you can look at that negative number and decide, oh, the inverse of the negative is positive. So we add 5 to both sides. We get negative 1 is greater than or equal to n. If we want to say what n is, we would flip that completely and say n is less than or equal to negative 1. Now, if we multiply or divide by a positive number, it's just like in our equality stuff. So we have 8x is less than or equal to 40. So you just divide both sides by 8. You get x is less than or equal to 5. Next, we have d over 2 is greater than 7. So you multiply by 2. You get d is greater than 14. Now, if you divide or multiply by negative numbers, stuff changes. You're still doing the same steps. You're going to multiply by negative 3. You get negative 12, but then look what happened to the inequality. It flips when you multiply or divide by a negative number. So keep that in mind, that extra thing that's going on with inequalities. You've got to flip the inequality. Try some examples, pause the video, and then come back and check yourself. All right, here's the answers. Realize there are number 4 and number 5. You had to flip the sign because you multiplied and divided by negatives. Two-step inequality. We're going to solve two-step inequalities similar to solving two-step equations. So we get rid of the plus or minus first. So we've got this plus 15. The inverse of that is negative 15, so we subtract 15 from both sides. Then we're left with 6x is greater than negative 6. To get rid of the 6, we've got to divide it. So we divide it, and we get x is greater than negative 1. Right here, we go through, we add 6 to both sides. We get m over negative 2 is greater than or equal to 8. We're going to multiply by negative 2. Oh, we multiplied by a negative. So the inequality has to flip. So you can see that it flipped to less than or equal to instead of greater than or equal to. Try some examples here. Pause the video and then come back. Remember to do that add or subtract first and then multiply or divide. Here's the answers. Notice that on this one right here, number 2, it had to flip. Number 3, it had to flip. And then the rest stay the same way. Or actually, number 3 didn't flip. They just turned it around because it was backwards. Because it was actually, you would end up with 8 is less than or equal to x. So they just flipped it to make it make more sense. And this number 2 should be c is greater than 1. So anyway, look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow.